Golly, that's good.
I haven't found my first Blanton's.
Wow. That's different. I really like that. Peychauds or Peychauds or Peychaud. Yeah, now I'm gorgeous. Although probably fuzzier was better. Okay. So this is not what I expected. Hello. How's it going? We are doing our thing. Yeah, here we go. All right. I've had a day. Oh, a friend of mine says it that way. I've had a day. So, started off the day, everything's fine. Slept decent last night. Everything was good. Well then, today, the day had to remind me that it's in charge. And I was working downstairs, and all of a sudden I heard this like thump. And I didn't think much of it. And then maybe 30 seconds later, I started smelling like this weird electrical rubbery type of stench. And I'm like, So I got up and I went into the, hey Jordan, hey Kevin, how you guys doing? I'm telling my woes. I have woes. So I went into the room where the furnace and stuff is, and there's a cloud of smoke in the furnace room. So it turns out that there is condensation happening, like there's 3 layers of the furnace. Like up here's the coils, and then here's where the igniters and whatever the heck it is, and then down here's the fan, right? The blower, like the squirrel cage. So evidently somewhere in here there's water dripping because of condensation, because it's so stinking stupid humid. And it got down and it was dripping on the blower and blew the blower so bad that it not only knocked out the 25 amp fuse in the blower assembly, but it also popped the breaker. And now I'm without air conditioning for the next few days. And then I might just have to buy a whole new furnace, because the exchanger, if it got wet, not only is there a danger of it not working when wintertime comes, but there's also a danger of carbon monoxide if that thing runs and there's holes in it. So all sorts of problems. Costs less money to just replace the stupid thing. And it's an old furnace, not like super old, but in the long scheme of things, it'll be cheaper to have a new, more efficient furnace anyway. So anyway, that's my day. That's my day. I've had a day. All right. So I deserve a little drinking. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get back into Four Roses. Last Thursday, we started off with this one, the 80 proof origin of Four Roses. And we talked a little bit about the recipes, how there are actually 10 different recipes, and all of them go into this bottle. This is just a mishmash of everything that Four Roses puts together. So let me take you to, I need these because I can't see anything. Let me take you to the recipe for this particular bourbon. The Four Roses 80 proof has everything in it, aged minimum 5 years. And this is the lowest age of anything that makes up this bourbon is 5 years. 80 proof, not bad. Not bad. A great bourbon if you need a bourbon to start out with. Okay? So, that's last week. Okay. All right. So this week, we're moving forward into the Four Roses small batch. Now, the Manhattan, the black Manhattan that we made last week was supposed to have been made with this one. We made it with the 80 proof, and I thought that it wasn't enough to overpower the vermouth. So we're going to make the same drink tonight with some help. And it's going to be done with the small batch. The small batch, where the first one was 80 proof, this one is 90 proof. Okay? So I got the glasses on. We'll just get this taken off. All right. Jeff is watching. Hey, Jeff, how are you? Boy, Jeff, you missed a meal yesterday. Another friend, another Jeff came over, and oh my gosh, we made venison backstraps, and we made potatoes, fried potatoes, and corn on the cob. We had potato salad. We had tossed salad. We had peaches. With the venison, there was onions and mushrooms. And then in the potatoes, there were onions. Incredible meal. Just incredible meal. I got the pictures. Thanks for the invite. It was myself, and it was Jeff, and my son. The three of us just enjoyed a wonderful meal. And it was the other Jeff's idea to text you and say neener neener. So that's why he did that. I will make sure that you're invited to the next one. I think here in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be making venison roast. There should be enough for like an army. So Tish, bring your wife, get her out of the basement, bring her up by the basket if you have to, and bring her over and we'll all have dinner. All right. So this is the Four Roses small batch. Now, the recipe on this one is a little bit different. You'll see on this that the recipe only uses recipes 2, 3, 7, and 8. And I kind of went through the different pieces of the recipes, but I actually have the graphic for you this week. These are the 10 recipes. And there's recipe that's a mash bill B, which is 60% corn, 35% rye, and 5% malted barley. And then there's mash bill E with 75% corn, 20% rye, and 5% malted barley. And then it's got the different yeasts that are involved. So each one of those letters on the end of that, the V, the K, O, Q, F on the top line, those are all the different yeasts that go into the recipe that gives it different flavors. And then the same thing for mash bill E. So this one has, if you'll see those 10, this one has these 4. Okay? So that's what makes the small batch different from the original one that we did, the Four Roses 80 proof, with has everything thrown into it. Okay? Four Roses, of course, we talked about this a little bit last week, but we'll kind of hit it again. Paul Jones Jr. is the guy who started Four Roses, and he was rather smitten with a Southern belle. And he said he wanted to marry her. And she said that if she was going to agree to getting married, that she would show up with a corsage of roses. And she did, with 4 roses. And when he decided to start a distillery and start doing his own bourbon, he named it Four Roses because that moment became such a thing for him, and he was smitten by the Southern belle. So... all right, so you see the fan on in the background. I've got a little small air conditioner over here that you can't see because it's off camera, but that was running until about 30 seconds before we started this. We're going to be running through this because I want that air conditioner back on. It's about 76 in the house now, so it's not too bad. And it's going to get cooler tonight. That'll give this air conditioner a chance to catch up. But it's going to be a warm weekend, and I'm not going to have air conditioning, so that's coming back on very shortly. Okay. Let's give this the nose. I didn't do any online. I didn't read any tasting notes. I've got no idea what anybody says about the small batch. As I said last week, I wasn't sure. The very first experience I ever had with Four Roses was either the 80 proof, which I thought was a little bit thin when I remember it, but I don't remember if it was actually this bottle or that bottle. I thought it was thin when I first drank it. And this one, last week, it didn't seem thin when I first tasted it, until I started getting into it, and the more I drank it, the thinner it seemed. So we added some water, and that brought some life back to it, which is something I didn't know back when I first tried it a long time ago. So we're going to do it with this one. Hey, Mike. How are you, sir? Mike Dugan. Watching from, he's a newer bourbon drinker. Mike, I don't know if you saw us last week, but we started off with the Four Roses 80 proof. This is a great beginning bourbon. So... And if you get into it and you lose the spice, you lose the ethanol, drop a little water into it, bring that mouthfeel right back up. Okay. And it shouldn't, but it does. It's the weirdest thing. All right, so this one is the small batch. This is 90 proof. Different recipe. A lot of times when you have different bottles and they're a different alcohol by volume, it's basically just the same recipe, only it is distilled at a higher proof. Your Buffalo Trace is an example of that. Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare, Stag Junior, George T. Stag, Eagle. I said that one. Bunch of them are all the same recipe. Colonel Taylor small batch, all the same recipe, just in different types of barrels in different places in the rick house. This is actually different recipes. Whereas that uses it all, this uses a bit of it. So let's get into the small batch. Again, it's got a nice floral, citrusy scent. I'm catching a nice amount of honey on this one, which is something I didn't get from the 80 proof. Yeah, the citrus and the honey are what's coming out a lot. I get some vanilla from this one, a little bit of cinnamon as well. They're starting to get into the more traditional notes that I take off of my bourbons. But this one has a higher citrus and a higher honey content than other ones, particularly the citrus. Well, the honey too, I guess. So I hope you're drinking along with me. I hope that you've got some of those Four Roses and you're giving it a shot. It's fun knowing that you're doing this with me, and you can share notes. You know, maybe you're getting the same thing that I am. Maybe you're not. Maybe I'm off my rocker. Probably that. Oh, we got a comment. Mike Euler is enjoying some of the Four Roses single barrel. Now you're jumping ahead. You're jumping ahead, Mike. That's 2 weeks from now. Next week will be the small batch select, and then the week after that will be the single barrel, which Mike has already taken it upon himself and jumped ahead. But that's okay. That's okay. Drink what you like. I'm just picking on you, Mike. Thank you for joining us. Drink what you like. That's what I do. Okay, so, and cheers. Cheers to you as well. All right, so I've given you the smelling notes. Let's see what it does down the hatch. Okay. That has a lot more of a robust mouthfeel. The ethanol is much stronger. The bloom started in the center of the tongue like I like, and it just kind of bloomed its way out. This is a much more, it's got more body. It's got more going on with it. So let me just take a second. I got some sad news, and you can see it if you're watching. Kevin's grandfather passed away today, and I know what that was like. My grandfather passed away of lung cancer and emphysema, which is now called COPD, in 1984, and I still remember the phone call that my mother got. And he had been battling the cancer for criminy, probably 5 years. Lost his voice, all he could talk is like a whisper. And it was awful. And I remember the phone call that came in. I think I was 14 years old, and my mother ran into the room. Daddy's dead. It was a horrible, horrible day. And Kevin, I know what you're going through, and I'm sorry that this happened to you. And my prayers will go out to your family and yourself. And it's an awful, rotten thing to have this happen. I'm sorry that your grandfather passed away today. So without another note, anybody who's drinking with me today, let's just take a second. And Kevin's a regular on the stream, and I appreciate, Kevin, you being here, and especially today. So why don't we just take a second and take a sip. I don't know his name. There's a delay, so tell me his name there, Kevin, and we'll do a special sip for your grandfather. I'll just I'll sniff it while we're waiting. I know. Well, let's just go ahead. Let's just go ahead. We'll sip it, and there it is. Now I can't even read it. Paul. All right, so Paul, here's to you. Thank you for gracing your family with the gift of you for all these years. May you rest in peace, and I hope what you're finding is the glory that we're all waiting for. Salute. Rest in peace, Paul. All right, so I said I wasn't going to take notes, but I can't help but do it. The notes on this, there's a, maybe it's because it's Four Roses, I don't know, but there's a floral texture to this, just a very slight floral hint. And it may have something to do with one of the yeasts that's in it. So let me go back and look. Let me take a look at the recipe again. There's the recipe, 2, 3, 7, and 8. Okay? So back to the actual recipe chart, 2, 3, 7, and 8. So K has a slight spice. That yeast has a spice. O has rich fruit. K has... Oh, that's spice, okay. Wait a minute. So there's 2 Ks and there's 2 Os. All right, so they didn't go with the floral notes, which is interesting. Because the Q, yeah, it is. No, it isn't. Nope, they didn't go with the one that has floral notes. Well, I'll tell you what. I think it has floral notes myself. Yeast is yeast and it does what it does. But I think that I'm catching some floral notes off of this, and I don't think I'm off my rocker to say that that's what I taste. I am getting some of the spice. This is definitely spicy. Cinnamon's stronger. I'm actually getting some anise or anise, however you want to pronounce it. Some pepper, maybe some raisin. The nose is not the same as you would expect from the palate. The palate is just a lot different. Its mouthfeel, even though the ethanol is stronger and even though it's spicier, the mouthfeel is still just a little bit thin. So it might have very well been this one that I tried that seemed thin to me when I first drank it. It's not as thin as the 80 proof, but it's certainly, it's more thin than I'm used to. And I've been drinking like the Ezra Brooks 90 again. So they're the exact same proof, but the Ezra Brooks has more of a mouthfeel than this does. But let's just add a little bit of this back into it. And let's do the water test. Let's see what's going on. Let's see if the water helps it. With the 80 proof, the water brought back some zing and definitely helped the mouthfeel. How are we doing on that? Yeah, we're all right. Good. All right. Some people like to add more water than that. I like to start with what I just added, which is maybe a ½ ounce. And then we go from there. This is an ounce thing, and at least I think it is. But I don't think I had it filled up all the way. It might have been an ounce, 3/4 of an ounce, something like that. All right. Yeah. Okay. Water opened this up a lot. I used to be a real skeptic about opening up a bourbon by adding water. More and more, I'm starting to see the sense in doing it, because this added to the spice of it. I got apples off of that, by the way. That cinnamon is there. There's a little bit of a tobacco-y hint. And the ethanol came back. The ethanol gave it more of a zing than it had before. I don't know. I may change my tide on this adding water to it. One of the ones that I used to argue with people about was Woodford Reserve. A friend of mine always adds water to Woodford Reserve. And I'm like, dude, you don't add water to Woodford Reserve. Come on! What is the matter with you? Well, next time I had Woodford, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it a shot. All right, one more. There's a grassiness. It's not a bad thing. It's the rye note probably, but there's a grassiness, a sweet grassiness right on the tip of my tongue. That's something that I caught that time that I thought was kind of interesting. If we go over to the flavor wheel, we can look at the possibility of maybe some grassiness or maybe where that comes from. Let's see where it says fruit and floral maybe. Yeah, no. Wood. The flavor wheel doesn't call for anything grassy. All right, well, enough of that then. Okay. There should be grassy. I mean, if you ever have like Bibb and Tucker, that's a grassy stinking bourbon. Now, I like it, don't get me wrong. It's just different. It's unusual. It's not like anything that you ever had before. When I first tried Bibb and Tucker, and I know we haven't done it here on the show, but we will one of these days, but I was told either you're going to like it or you're going to hate it. Well, I like it. I don't love it, but I like it. And there are bourbons that I definitely do not like, but Bibb and Tucker I can drink, and I don't mind that one too much. So, all right, so we've done the water test. We've done neat. Yum, yum. Yum, yum. Did you see Suicide Squad yet? If you have HBO, Max or Plus or whatever it is, I think it's Max. Suicide Squad is on HBO Max, and if you already have it, you don't have to pay more money to get it. Sylvester Stallone plays King Shark. And he doesn't go into character voice. He doesn't try to disguise his voice or anything like that, but he does a really good job of sounding stupid. And one of the signature lines that he has is "nom nom." It's just funny. If you get the opportunity, it's not a great movie. It's kind of stupid, but it's fun to watch. It's stupid, but it's fun to watch. So if you get an opportunity to check out Suicide Squad, the newest one, it's on HBO. I think it's Max, and it's Harley Quinn is back, played by Margot Robbie, who I can't imagine anybody else playing Harley Quinn. She is fantastic. She's always been fantastic as Harley Quinn. She nails it. She sounds like the video game or the cartoon. She sounds exactly like it. She's fantastic. And gorgeous and just fits the role perfectly. But she's back, and then a few of the other people are back, but don't expect them to stick around very long. This is definitely a more gory Suicide Squad movie, which was kind of necessary. It went rated R, and it was fun. Probably one of the more entertaining DC movies. I haven't liked very many of the DC movies at all. I don't like the darkness, the Zack Snyder crap. I don't care for it. But Suicide Squad has been something that I think, even though other people hated it, I think that they've been watchable. The second one, meh. But the first one and the third one, I've enjoyed it. This one is just funny. It's just funny. It's just entertaining all the way through. And James Gunn, who's the guy that directed Guardians of the Galaxy, he directed the new Suicide Squad movie. So that's my movie plug for today. All right, so we're gonna put this on this ice sphere, and I always hesitate to put it on ice, not because it's gonna melt and diffuse the flavors of the drink. I'm not worried about that because these ice spheres tend to melt more slowly. This is a clear ice sphere, so you're not going to get any gunk in it. It is what it is. But when you cool down a bourbon, you mute the flavors of the bourbon. Excuse me. So that's why I don't like ice unless I'm doing a cocktail. But here we go. I think this is cool enough. I can feel it on the side of the glass. This one holds up. The flavors are not muted. That vanilla, that pepper's still there. The honey really shouts out too. I get a sense of cereal, which could be the rye content, but the cereal, I'm getting like a granola type of flavor on ice. And that's something I didn't get when it was neat or on water. I sense granola. I have the sense of granola. Somebody was watching and sent me an IM and said that I look playful. I'm playful. Yeah, I mean, if you don't let it sit too long on the ice ball, ice is going to eventually melt and diffuse the drink. But if you just want it cooled down, it holds its character. Hopefully you take longer to drink it than I just did. I'm in a hurry. It's starting to get warm in here, and I want to turn the air conditioner on. So, it is cocktail time. See how it stands up. Now, George was watching last week, and I haven't seen him come on board yet this week. And he called me out last week. So, it's too bad that George is not here because, oh, he might be here. I just haven't seen it if he is. But if he's not here, this is George's fault. All right. So, we'll do the ice. Pardon the noise. Yeah, I didn't pull out the big cooler today. I decided to do it the quick way. All right, we got this. We're going to need an ounce and a half of the Four Roses. It's a good thing I had it over the glass. Whoops. It's alcohol abuse. And then we have the vermouth, and I have no napkin or anything. All right. All right, so we'll do an ounce of the vermouth, and this I will try not to spill. And then we have the black walnut bitters. I think that's yeah. And we do 2 dashes. 1, 2. All right. Give it a little stir. Stir till the sides of the mixing glass get a little frosty, or I can feel the cold. I have not gotten my stirring technique down quite as well as I would like. I'm working on it. There's a technique where the back of the spoon stays against the side of the glass at all times. Yeah. I'm not doing that. That's nice and cool. So we grab this, we grab this, grab this. And then, because George called me out last week, you can't make a Manhattan or a black Manhattan without the Luxardo cherry. Ew. It's all sloppy. Actually, not too bad. So I got the toothpick and we're just gonna bloop. It's submerged. All right, so I found out something about these cherries. A lot of times when you open up a can of something, you refrigerate it. You do not refrigerate Luxardo cherries. You keep them in a cool space, but if you go so far as to refrigerate them, some of the stuff in here will crystallize and is no bueno. So just put it in a place that is a little cooler. My house will not be cooler this weekend, but we'll put it downstairs in the basement or something like that where it can stay room temperature cool without being subjected to what I'm being subjected to right now. Heat and humidity. All right, so let's try this. That's tasty. So last week, I was dismayed that the Four Roses 80 proof could not hold up to the vermouth that I put in this Manhattan. So I ended up putting in more Four Roses. This being 90 proof and a little spicier, different recipe, cuts through that vermouth quite nicely and gives me a much better Manhattan than the 80 proof. This is actually the Four Roses that Four Roses recommends for the Black Manhattan. So, goes to show that if you use the right one, you get a better drink. And this, I don't have to add any more to it. Chewy is saying hello. Hi, Chewy. It's past crack 30. At 7:30, they get a special treat when they go outside. And it is now 8:02. And they have not gotten their crack. So they're like, Daddy, crack. All right, down you go. Last week it was Barkley, this week it's Chewy. All right, so we did the small batch on, well, neat, then we did it on ice, then we did it with water. Now in a Manhattan, and I will tell you I like it much better in a Manhattan just the way it is. Could you add a little more? Yes, you could add a little bit more. You can go with a 1 ounce pour of the vermouth. You could do a 2 ounce pour of the Four Roses and still be okay and still get a nice Manhattan flavor. But for a black Manhattan with the black walnut bitters, I will tell you that I kind of like the mix just the way it is. If you're not a vermouth fan, you don't like the flavor of that, then yeah, go to 2 ounces of the Four Roses, but you're not going to have to go much more than that. Last week I had to add a lot more of the regular Four Roses to get the flavor that I wanted. This week I don't have to. And I added the exact same amount of vermouth this week that I did last week. So, with that, I'm not going to stick around much longer because I want to turn the air conditioning on. I know I'm probably getting shiny. I can feel it. Next week, we're going to go with the Four Roses Small Batch Select. Now, this bad boy is 104 proof. So, we went from 80 proof to 90 proof to 104 proof. This is next week on Beautiful Bourbon. Check us out on Instagram, Beautiful Bourbon. You're already on the Facebook group or page. You might also take a look at the actual webpage where I am so bad at keeping that up to date. But I have my tasting notes on there, and these videos sometimes make it to the blog. That's at beautifulbourbon.com. So I would appreciate any opportunity you have to share it. So far, so good. I mean, we continue to grow, and I've been really pleased with the amount of people that are checking us out and looking at us. And again, this isn't something that I've even thought about monetizing. I'm just having fun doing it, and it's a new hobby, and I'm enjoying it. And the more I learn about bourbon, the happier I am. So, again, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to this. And again, next week, the Small Batch Select, 104 proof. And I can tell you I'm looking forward to that. One last note before I go away. Are you impressed that I still have this much of this bottle? I told you I was going to save this bottle. I was going to leave it alone, and I did. Are you impressed? You should be impressed. I have a friend that's going to come up in like a week or so, and he's been asking about entry-level bourbons, and I'm going to give him a tour of this bottle because I think it's one that if he's going to start doing this, that he'll appreciate, and I think it'll be a good one for him. So, Joe, hi. Lester, hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I don't know how long you were there, but I didn't see it. But thank you for chiming in. Joseph, you're right at the end. We started at 7:30 and we're just getting wrapped up. So thanks again, everybody, for watching. And I'm going to Got to find the right place here. There we go. I'm going to wrap her up, and we will see you. Oh my gosh, there's all this stuff. We will see you next week with Four Roses Small Batch Select. Keep drinking. Do it responsibly. See you next week.